Hello, this is Steve Wernick, Rabbi Wernick. We're starting the next on a new paradigm for Jewish learning for conservative Judaism. I want to thank all of you for being with us today. We are recording it because there are some people that are not able to be with us, and they're going to sign in there in order to hear and to see what it is that they missed. Our goal this afternoon is to introduce you to the paradigm and clarify what it is that we're asking you to do in doing it. This is a very big idea, and what my rabbinic training to do, I thought I would begin with the little words of Torah as it relates to Review-20120426, which is the part that we read this Shabbat. Review is a very interesting parsha. It's perhaps one of the most difficult to create a draw on in the modern experience. It begins with issues of childbirth and moves into issues of leprosy and the ritual suitability and procedures for one who may be stricken with leprosy. But it's always been, perhaps not by accident, the first part about childbirth that catches the attention of the rabbis. I'd like to share with you a story that I first heard from Rabbi Sidney Greenberg, alav Shalom, one of the great rabbis of our movement from a generation ago, who was in the greater Philadelphia area. He's a story of a frantic, expectant father who knocks on the door of his wife's OBGYN. He's knocking on the door frantically, and one of the children answers the door, and the parent says, the expectant father says, is your father in? My wife is about to go into labor. She's going to give birth. Is your father in? We need the doctor. To which the child responds, I'm sorry, but he's not here right now. And the frantic father continues to press, well, he's not here. Where is he? When is he going to be back? To which the child answers, I don't know. He's out on an eternity case. And the Freudian slip, of course, is both the humor that the child misunderstood the difference between a maternity case and an eternity case. But it's a telling lesson for us in terms of Tazria and Mitzvah, and then also the goal of this time. With part of the eternity of the Jewish people has been capacity to pass our values and our approach to making our ancient sacred texts relevant within the lives of the present and the next generations. And this new paradigm for Jewish learning comes as part of a long tradition of our people address exactly that issue. How do we attain the eternity of our people in our present circumstance? A little bit of background. Highlight 5 elements of the paradigm, and then I'll ask you I'll let you know what it is that we're asking from you, and then we'll open it up to some questions and answers following. Called at United Synagogue, really in March of 2009, challenged by a coalition of rabbis and synagogue leaders that began in 25 of our largest kehilot, our largest congregations, and we grew to more than 75 kehilot in total. They challenged United Synagogue to really become responsive to local kehilot and to create the capacities that the synagogues feel that they need in order to be responsive to the challenges of the current circumstance. They're brought on by a recession in 2008, as well as, I think, a stasis in the organizational life of conservative Judaism. That challenge was met a strategic planning process that took a little bit longer than we anticipated. It took 18 months to complete, but in March of 2009, 2011, that strategic plan was adopted by United Synagogue and set in motion a intensive and aggressive implementation to achieve that strategic plan. In the strategic planning process, we had very long and intensive discussions and debates over the role of education in the new United Synagogue. There were some who felt that United Synagogue should not be involved in education and should either empower existing organizations, and this was the desired opinion of those who argued this, new organization responsible for the strengthening and transformation of education within conservative Judaism. In the course of that discussion and debate, a couple things were concluded by all the research and conversations that we had both internally and externally with other stakeholders. The conclusion was that we could not state the strengthening and transformation of Kehilot, the strengthening and transformation of the congregational school, which is the platform by which the vast majority of North American Jews receive their education, nor do we conversely set the transformation of the educational system of the school from the strengthening and transformation of the Kehillah itself. They were connected closely to each other and had to be addressed holistically in our opinion and conclusion. We understood that Amcha, that the Kehilot, both our schools, individuals, and otherwise, make up the whole of conservative Judaism, we're not interested in seeing another three-letter organization come into being that was added to the already 26 existing conservative organizations that make conservative Judaism. Related to that, it was very clear that if congregations didn't want to pay dues to synagogue, it would also be unlikely that we could convince them to pay dues to an organization like United Synagogue or yet a third organization to address education. So we made the decision that United Synagogue's strategic plan in some way, shape, or form had to call for involvement, certainly with what we term Kehillah-based learning, those learning environments that take place within the synagogue. But even beyond that our vision for United Synagogue was to be a convener of Judaism to address the global and holistic issues of our movement and of our organizations. And our strategic plan specifically, and this is expressed in the introduction of the executive summary, for instance. Our strategic plan calls for in the introduction, but the strategic plan called for United Synagogue to lead a collaborative effort toward the integration and collaboration of supporting learning under conservative auspices. In August of 2011, we convened a very large table that consisted of two groups. We called an education council, was made up of the professional head and lay leadership of the organizations of conservative Judaism that have a direct impact on education. United Synagogue, Salman Sheder Schools, Ramah Camps, JTS, Fingerhut School of Education, the Rabbinical Assembly, the Cantors Assembly, Jewish Educators Assembly, Jewish Youth Directors Association, and so forth. We convened a second group that in August met at the first meeting as well of a panel of frontline educators, people who have been identified to us or who we identified as being amongst the very best of the work they do on the ground, teaching inspiring children from 0 to 18. And at that meeting, we went over the goals of this education consultation, shared some initial research about the current landscape of Jewish education in North America in general and conservative Judaism in particular. We charged the panel spending the next 6 months to continue learning and to develop a paradigm, reimagining the way in which the Continental Organization supported local communities in Jewish learning. And so that's basically the genesis of this document. That panel then met several more times on the phone, by WebEx, as we're meeting now, and also in person with 2 two-day intensive workshops to address these issues. Eventually created this document, this new paradigm. This paradigm has 5 essential elements to it, which are what I'm sharing on the screen now. First, to strengthen and transform Kehillah-based learning. This is because our research showed that learning that takes place in our congregations is the largest in terms of participation. It also has the weakest response in terms of effectiveness, in terms of imparting Jewish inspiration and knowledge, and in particular of imparting a sense of a conservative Jewish identity. The second element of the paradigm, which came out of that research, was that the high-impact immersive educational experiences have the smallest levels of participation, but the highest level of satisfaction and of effectiveness for conservative Jewish identity. I'll give you some sense of the statistics, and I believe that there are shown later on in the document in its full form. Our best estimate, and it's probably low, but our best estimate on the data that we have is that there are approximately 130,000 children in conservative communities from 0 to 18. Of that 130,000, about 7,000 participate in Camp Ramah on an annual basis. 30,000 are found in 45 to 50 Salman Schechter day schools, and 13,000 are currently identified in Kadima and USY. Those numbers, for those numbers and those high intensive experiences, there's likely up to 40% overlap, which means in essence that the high impact programs are reaching less than 10% of the overall population that's available. That's a problem for us. And we believe that the current system, which is heavily siloed, and which has the greatest impact on the smallest number of participants, is doomed for a major failure if we don't address these issues systematically and holistically in the very near future. So step 1 is to stop treating Kehillah-based learning as a stepchild and work with local communities to find a variety of methodologies for them to become more successful. 2, expand the number of children and teens participating in those intensive, immersive Jewish experiences, which we know work. Step 3, which relates to the silozation, is to create linkages between Kehillot and those intensive and immersive experiences. From the very basic, for example, we have no synagogues that live on their homepage of their website. There are little Salman Schechter schools, if there is one, or for region of USI or Camp Ramah they belong. And even from the very basic linkages between our communities and these intensive experiences, they do not exist. And for the more substantive linkages, it's consistent to where those linkages really happen. So address that. 4, is to invest in research and development to increase the impact of conservative Jewish learning. There's no single organization today that's thinking about this specifically or thinking about it in terms of a system as large as ours. Lots of isolated efforts, very often run by the larger federations, addressing this in local levels, but no one, to our knowledge, and Jonathan Wucher, who is involved with Jewish educational services in North America, confirms there's no one who's really thinking about it on a global scale or a replicable scale as it needs to be. So we need to have an opportunity with our own impact of conservative Jewish learning to really think deeply about new methodologies of education, about systems to support it, and about connecting synergistically big learning ideas that have to be addressed, such as Israel, such as prayer, such as the transmission of a conservative identity, and so forth. And then the fifth element is to invest significantly in developing and deploying outstanding professionals and new learning technologies throughout the entire system. These are not necessarily in a ranked order priority, but these are the 5 essential elements of the paradigm. From a organizational perspective, there are 3 pillars. One, the United Synagogue would invest in creating the system for Kehillah-based learning capacity. It would create a new department of learning that has 3 core components: early childhood, middle childhood, and teens. And it would develop or procure or buy the content pieces necessary to partner with local communities in capacity building for effective Jewish learning. Second pillar would be to take some of the national commissions that already exist, such as the Ramad Commission, Thomas or the Shared Day School Network, and really work to expand their capacity and building boards that focused on their vision and mission and would have the 3 W's of board leadership, wisdom, and wealth to bring about systemic change and growth of addressing number 2, which is expanding the opportunities for those intensive and immersive programs. A third commission that's being suggested in this paradigm is a eventual merging of the backroom operations of what we call the Israel Plus experience. A seminar runs an Israel experience that feeds primarily from Roma camps, and United Synagogue runs an Israel experience as well as a Wheels experience and others that feed from multiple market opportunities and segments. The programs may be different, the bidding and market segments may be different, but the backroom operations are certainly similar. And in addition to the expected effectiveness of a single backroom operations and framework, we believe that a specific approach to expanding the Israel Plus experiences is necessary. And so in what is probably amongst the most radical recommendations of this document is for United Synagogue and JTS and Ramah to start exploring that. And there's ways by which we've already begun that. The third pillar is a institute, a center, probably housed at JTS, that would be responsible for research and development, that would have some grant-giving capacity in order to incentivize Kehilot to apply that research and development, and would think synergistically about those big picture curriculum ideas, such as Israel prayer, Jewish identity, and so forth. Those are the 5 elements of the paradigm and the 3 essential operational pillars that are suggested in it. What is it that we're asking of you? Is to remember that this is a really big idea. It's not even necessarily a specific strategic plan. It is more akin to a concept piece, from which more specific strategies and certainly implementation actions and planning will be required. So as you look at it, keep that in mind. What we want to know is, does this make sense? Is this direction that you want to see your continental organizations move in terms of their own collaboration and integration, but most importantly in providing the types of outcome that you in the field lives with these challenges on a daily basis, feel beneficial for you in doing the work that needs to be done. So let us know what you think about that. Where do you have it right? Where do you think we're missing the point? Do you think something we say perhaps isn't clear? What's missing? What else do you think we should be thinking about? And then also related to that, as we move from taking the document from a concept piece to an actual strategy and implementation, what are some of the questions that you think need to be considered as we do so? They'll help us in our planning and our execution when we come to it. That's really what we're asking from you at this point. You can write those comments directly on the Google documents. You send them to us at learning@ucj.org email address. We'll review them all. We're going to consider them all. And we hope to do is, from this vetting process that includes 14 Kihitas and 1 day school, which is the essence of this call, as well as United Synagogue's internal vetting process, and we've asked all the organizations involved to vet it with their own leadership groups. We're going to bring it all together, and we're going to see where we are. Barring substantive issues that are going to require a small group to work through, we anticipate that we're probably going to be able to make some revisions to this document based on the input that's received, and take it to a level of endorsement from all different arms of our movement, so that we can begin to work in concert to start achieving. We have that completed by the middle to the end of May. And then to begin the next stage of strategy setting and implementation for the summer. So I'm going to stop there by the introduction. And you have, if you're on your computer, there should be on the participants level an opportunity to raise your hand. Raise your hand if you can. If not, we'll open the lines. And if you have any questions or comments, we'd love to hear them.
If I make one comment first, I'm Paul Drazen. I'm working with Rabbi Werner on this. We use Kihilot from across the continent of all different sizes and different locations. Very specifically, we really are interested in your thoughts from your space, where you are. Is this something that can work in a small congregation, some large, medium, where you are, the resources that you have in your community to make sure we have a document that really makes sense as a continental approach?
Paul, questions? Comments? So it's okay that there's no questions or comments right now, because this presentation was really designed to be an introduction. I think that we have another one scheduled for May 10th. At that webinar, we'll be able to share with you some of the learnings that we've had for this process. The types of comments and feedback that we received, and if anybody would have additional comments or questions at that time, we're happy to take them. I'm just going to ask one more time, are there any comments or questions? The line
we are audio only. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can. Tell me who you are, please.
We are Ian Nitkin from Vancouver, BC. We're actually driving in our car in Washington right now, but we've been listening to the introduction, and we discussed the document, which we've read, and the thing that really strikes us, it sounds like there's a lot of good stuff in there, but the thing that really strikes us about it is that there's very little or no mention of the role of the parents and how the Kihilot can approach and inspire and change the direction of what happens at home with the kids. Because the kids can learn all they want in school, or all the schools want to teach them, and sometimes they come home and it's completely undone by the parents' habits and behavior. So I'd like to see something like that discussed and dealt with.
Thank you. I would just say, as an initial response, one of the reasons why you vet things is because when you're knee deep in it, you lose certain things that are in there, right? Part of our mission in creating this was really addressing learning and families. And so I believe there's some language in there that talks about that at childhood, middle childhood, and adults. But we made a note of that and look to expand on that so it becomes some more visible on the next draft. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, then we thank you for your time. We look forward to hearing from you. If you have any additional questions or need help with anything, please contact Rabbi Paul Drazen, who, of course, is the email that sent to you the invitation, drazen@uscj.org. Those of you in Canada, drazen@uscj.org. It gives me an opportunity to get back to my Winnipeg roots. Thank you very much, and have a good Shabbos. Bye-bye. And if you're doing other activities, one second.